really, really grateful for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, because it sounds like then, like maybe where I had seen entrepreneurship, actually, the word I was looking for is just stewardship, like
Right,
period,
right,
which is
right.
such a, it feels like it's a hot button thing right now, at least like down in like my buckle of the Bible Belt evangelical culture. It's like
Yeah,
stewardship is definitely like a little hot topic, but I'm like starting to understand why
yeah,
because
yeah.
of exactly what you just said. Like, there's this obsession with calling and purpose. I think that sometimes we take too far to the extreme of like it has to be something hyper spiritual, when in
Right,
reality, there's actually probably so much more all of us could be doing
right.
when we recognize that, like, what has God asked me to do today?
Yeah.
Like, how am I carrying the light of the kingdom into this conversation today with,
Mm-hmm.
whoever I'm meeting at a coffee shop? Or
Right.
my dad works in like business that's like kind of on the healthcare side of things. And
Hmm.
he's one of the only believers, I think he might be the only believer on his team. And
Wow.
so, like, how does he use that? Yeah. And
Mhm.
we've had many conversations about it because he's known that that's something he's carried with him in all of these different positions because
Mhm.
no job he's ever worked in has been outright vocational ministry. So
Wow.
it's so cool. And like to see that that's something that they have been not just talking about, but also sharing, like, hey, let me also just show you how I know
Yep.
how to do this and how the
Mhm.
Lord has carried me through. It's not just talk. It's like,
Yep.
no, here's what it actually looks like.
Yep.
Um, which is so fantastic. So, with Manny Got the Shot, you mentioned on your page, I want to say it was like maybe a couple months ago, you were talking about how you had just started it. It was like 2022,
Mhm.
and then like a few months before, or like maybe it was a few months ago, or maybe it was sometime in 2025, you had started reposting some content from 2022 and you began
Mhm.
to get a lot more traction again.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what
Right.
has that been like for you? Like, as you've kind of, you started out then, what's the trajectory been like? What's the pivot been like?
Yeah, so it's so funny. Well, first I want to say, like, venturing out into entrepreneurship is not easy. And it can
Hmm.
be incredibly scary and nerve-wracking. And I know that the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, but I was really scared.
Yeah, but we can be afraid. Yeah, sometimes we are.
Exactly, as humans, exactly. So, as a human being, I'm like, wow, this is a lot. I'm really putting myself, out there. People
Yeah.
are actively gonna watch, or are actively watching the journey of me going from, doing this here and there to now doing it full time. So
Yeah.
I think the first wedding that I ever shot like behind the scenes content for was my friends at church, um, their wedding in 2020. Now, before that too,
Hmm.
like I was also already like I would always be the person that's recording all the things that's happening at events.
Yeah.
Whether it's a gallery showing for one friend or whether it's a bridal shower for another friend. Like I was just always a person documenting the moment and putting something, together. It was something that I always did. So,
Yeah.
and in 2020, I remember my friends actually telling me like, you should go into business for this. Like give a price, tell them that you're just going to capture the behind the scenes footage on your phone and keep it going. I was like, girl, nobody's going to pay me for this. I'm not even going to do it. So I didn't. So from
Hmm.
from
That's so real.
2020 to it's crazy. From 2020 to about I think mid 2023, I just continued just doing things for people for free. I just continued like
Mm.
making these reels and like capturing things. And like you said, it was in 2023 that I had quit my teaching job. Um
Okay.
and that was another time where I'm just like I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing. And
Yeah.
I told myself, okay, well, let me just repost all of my older stuff. I don't know. Because at that point, by 2023, a community of content creators that were specific for weddings and events, the community had already began. Despite the fact that I had been doing it
Hmm.
maybe longer than many of the content creators of today, I still had to, put that aside and just find a way to just continue,
Hmm.
jump in the mix. Now that I made a decision
Yeah.
not to really, take it seriously. In 2020, now I had
Hmm.
to get in the mix. So that was when I started reposting old content. So if you even go on my Instagram page, like my personal page, you scroll down, like, or even in the Reels tab, you'll see all of the Reels that I did for friends and for my friends' weddings and things like that. It's all there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, okay, well, let me just repost this stuff over there. So I started doing that, and it started picking up traction. People started to see what I was doing, and I remember my first lady had told me to come to another sister at my church was gonna get engaged. It was a surprise proposal at
Mm-hmm.
church, and it was on a random day. I think it was like a Monday or a Tuesday or something in July of 2023. And she was like, "Oh, recording, like get the BTS and everything, because my pastors are so supportive of anything that we do." She was
Yeah.
like, "Get the BTS, record this, record that, record me saying this, doing that." Like she was really the creative director for that entire proposal. She's the creative director for a lot of the proposals at church. So yeah, like we ended up doing it, and then I created the video, and then I posted it on my Mini Got the Shot page. And I didn't make any grand announcement. People just saw that this page was there, and they saw my name Manney in it, so they know that
Mhm.
obviously I was the one that did. They were like, "Manney, like, oh, you have a page, like da da da," and people started to hear about it, and I started to post more and more and more. And then as the year went on, specifically towards the end of the year, I had two other friends from church, Ezine and Mike, who asked me to cover their wedding. And that there was one reel that I made during that wedding that went crazy viral. I had 7.8 million views. It was a random video of the groomsmen. They were all playing around. They weren't
Mhm.
being serious. I think it was a play on the trend that was going on at the time. I think it was like, oh well, I'm not the groom, I'm the groom's dad. I'm not the groom, I'm the groom's this. I don't know if you've ever seen that trend, but that was really hot at that time.
Yeah.
So we just did like a funny take on that. And I don't know, it just blew up. I
It's
did not
popped
expect
off.
did not expect that at all. And I was like, oh, this is really like interesting. So then it just continued to go from there. So that helped me get some traction. And then more people started booking me. And then 2024 came and the same thing was going on. And then I think each year there's been like one wedding or event that was really pivotal in the upward movement of my company. So in 2020, it was the
Mm.
first wedding that I covered. Um, and I know I call them like my friends, my brother and sister in Christ, but they're now leaders. So Pastor Jalik and
Wow.
Lady Debbie, they're leading the North Carolina branch of my church. So it was their wedding. And then in
Mhm.
2021, it was my good friend, no, 2022, it was my one of my really really close friends, Lucy. She's also in ministry work now. She's also married to Pastor Elijah. I covered their wedding. They're leaders of the Maryland branch.
Mhm.
So it's so interesting to see, like, obviously our relationships, all these people in there, where they were at that time while I was recording them is so different from where they are now, which I always really really love. But yeah, so
Yeah.
they were doing that, and then I believe it was 2023 was when I recorded my friends Esne and Mike, and then 2024 it was my sister's wedding, but also my good friends Alexis and Matthew, their wedding, and that wedding took my
Mhm.
business to the top. I don't know, I think that weekend I had like 2.7 million people on my page, and I was like, what in the world is going
Wow.
on? I did not expect that. And then more bookings came, and then in 2025 it just kept growing and growing and growing. So I'm so grateful to God for the upward trajectory of like my business. And I'm grateful that my pastors, I would say, I think, kind of saw the gift for me in terms of documenting things really early, even though I had been doing it for most of my life. Like even back when Facebook was like really hot and popping, I was always writing
Mhm.
statuses, sharing stuff over there, long paragraphs. Like, I think
Yes.
Facebook at that time, like 2017, no, like 2015, 2016, 2017, that era, like Facebook was
It
hot.
was good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we were all on there. I felt like in a way that my status kind of served as like a mini like blog. So when I joined KFT, and I got into that a little bit more, and it's actually, you know what? I could say that or maybe I can talk about this a little bit later when you ask more questions. But my service in church is definitely connected to the building of my business, and which is
Mhm.
all connected to what I was saying earlier about how my pastors really built their own. personal careers and their ministry and the KFT ministry, and how that served as a blueprint for me and a lot of other people at church who are also entrepreneurs to build their businesses as well. So yeah, it's all connected.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, yeah, let's talk about that then because you've served in a ton of different capacities at your church. Like you've been
Mhm.
on the praise dance team, you are running social media, you are helping coordinate all that sort of stuff. So, what does that look like in terms of not just how it supports your business through like you're refining your skills, but you've already mentioned it like a ton of the people who you've like shot content for have been people from your church. Like
Right,
what's the
right.
kind of connection because everybody also knows somebody. So like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
because you've shot one wedding, they've got a friend who you don't know, but they're
Yep.
about to call
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually exactly how it happened. So it's so interesting because I, even though like I said before, like I had been, documenting things my whole life and just recording things of people, like I've always been someone who likes to document something. So when I joined the church in my church in 2018, it was 2019, like towards the end of that year, my pastors had noticed that I was always recording. So like anytime we did something, like whether it was an event for someone at church or something like that, they would notice that I would have
mhm,
a full breakdown of the whole event in my Instagram stories. Like you'd see from beginning to end how, the party or
mhm,
the event went. And then I think around 2020, the Lord visited my prophetess, like my first lady, with a really powerful dream. And that dream ended up going really, really viral. And it was a dream that pretty much decoded the state of the world at that time between COVID, between all the social justice movements that were going on,
mm,
presidency, elections, like literally, when I say everything in that dream was addressed, even global things, like things that were happening in Nigeria, like it was just the Lord really
wow.
visited her mightily. And as the years have gone on, so many things that happened in that dream have already happened in real, life. So, I'm really, really
Mm,
grateful for her. So at that time, I remember where she wanted to share the full dream with the world, and she was really afraid to, but it was actually my apostle who told her, like, no, you should share it. Like, this is the message that the Lord has given you. Like, we need to share it to the masses so that everybody, knows. Um,
mhm.
so at the time, I think on Instagram Live, you couldn't save a live and go back to it. So you either had to have somebody pretty much screen record the whole thing. So that's what I did. I screen recorded three
Mm,
hours of that live, like the whole thing.
wow.
Then I ended up saving it, and then I ended up sending it over to them so they could upload it to the church YouTube. So I think after that, I think throughout COVID, I was recording anything that I could, screen recording it and sending it over to them. I was still like, even though we couldn't really be like outside, whenever we did something
Mhm,
virtual or something like that, I would always make it a point to make it accessible for everyone. So I do remember when
mhm.
I was in church. This was 2020, I think, like mid 2020. No, no, no. This was at the end of 2020. I think we were gradually making our way back to in person meetings, but we just had to have a mask on. So I
Yeah.
remember Apostle saying, like, Manny, do you like media? Like, do you like media things? I said, sure. I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't really know everything that would kind of, I guess, go on with media as the years went on. I was like, yeah, sure. Like,
Yeah.
but he just knew that I had a knack for like recording things and documenting. So that's kind of how I got into that. So when I got into that, then I started helping out with social media at my church. So at the time where I started managing my church page, I think we are about like 7 or 8,000 followers. Now we're at like
Mhm.
56,000 followers. So I've been
Wow.
working really, really closely on that for a long time. Like that has been something that I've really enjoyed doing. So between making
Mhm.
content, managing the page, between training other people to do the same thing. Like I've trained a lot of people at my church to get into content creation and get into that. So that's kind of how that started. And that funneled into my business because much of my earlier portfolio of work comes directly from all my church brothers and sisters. Like, because we went from no one really getting married to then everybody was getting married every 5 seconds. Everybody's either getting
Yeah, you guys had a
engaged.
ton of weddings.
Yes, like, and and that also just goes to show how powerful prayer is and how powerful God's word is, because I remember when I first joined the church, like there was like no couples. Like I'm a witness, no couples. No
Hmm.
one was talking to no one. I think I only knew of one couple, which was the first couple I ever recorded content for at their wedding, Pastor Jalik and Lady Deborah. So at that time, those are the only two people I knew that were like a thing. I didn't know anybody
Hmm.
else. Nobody, everybody was just fighting for their lives. We're all just warring in prayer. We're just trying to get our lives together. Nobody was thinking about nothing. So then when
Yeah.
2021, mainly 2022 was when the weddings just started to like, it just increased. Like there were more weddings, there were more engagements. It was just more and more than 2023. Like it just kept going and going. Everybody's getting engaged, everybody's getting married. So I
Yeah.
had the privilege of covering all of those, weddings. Like I was covering their
Hmm.
ceremonies and recording their prep processes and everything. Like I was literally directly involved. So much of what I started off with came from my church brothers and sisters, which I'm really, really grateful for. And as the business has grown, kind of
Hmm.
like what you said, word of mouth gets around, they're telling other people. So then now it's like
Hmm.
a lot of my clients are not even people that go to the church. It's like people that I don't know from anywhere, but through
Yeah.
Instagram, through word of mouth from my amazing church community, I am where I am, today, because of that. So I'm just so grateful for that. So as I was serving in church and perfecting my craft, because the more that you consistently do something, the better that you get at it. The more that you kind of,
Right.
I guess, become like a master at what you're doing. So I was always documenting things for the stories at church, always making little reels, little recaps of what happened at church. So that's what I just kept doing. And I remember at the time I was using
Hmm.
InShot. InShot was the platform I was using. And it was actually through another church brother that I had, Minister Jared. He was like, have you ever heard of CapCut? It's so much better. It's like, has all these features. So then I started using CapCut. Then I just started using it more and more. And then eventually I started to use a camera because, I was mainly using my
Hmm.
phone to do a lot of capturing. So it's just like the trajectory of building my skill set happened directly from my service. And even like learning how to build stamina, like we have a 12-hour prayer marathon every year for the marriage fast that I was talking about earlier. And if you have to stand on
Hmm.
your feet and capture content and record and edit for 12 hours, you can do a 10-hour wedding day. Like you can do a 6-hour
Yeah.
ceremony. Like literally, like that's kind of where all of that, came from. So I was able to build the skill set, the stamina, flex my creative muscles through my service. And that's kind of how all of
Hmm.
that funneled into the work that I do for Manny Got the Shot. So for me, when it comes to the testimony of my business, or the testimony of my creative journey, I cannot cut my church out of it. Like my church and my pastors have played an instrumental role in where I am now. And that's why I'm so grateful for them. I'm so grateful for how far I've come, because if it wasn't for the fact that my apostle stopped me that one random day on a Sunday after church and said, do you like
Yeah.
media? I don't know where I would be right now. So very, very grateful for him and my church for that. And just grateful for my church allowing me to like be a part of all those intimate moments. Like I'm watching, a
Hmm.
bride get prayed for by her mom. Like no one else can be in the room but
Yeah.
her mom and like maybe some of her bridesmaids. I'm watching
Hmm.
like someone maybe like kind of have like a health scare the morning of their wedding, like, and being a support and like help, like praying alongside with them so they can be better, so they can proceed with the ceremony that day. Like I'm watching someone enter into a whole new like part of their life. Like they are about to be a wife, or they are about to be a husband. So the fact that I was even able to be a part of all those moments was just something that I would never really take for granted, and something I'm just so grateful that I was able to do. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that so much because, yeah, you do have a lot of like unrestricted access to these really
Yeah.
like tender, intimate moments of people's
Yeah.
lives. But I mean, you said it earlier too. One of the reasons that you love stuff like this and that content creation is a great path for this right now is because you love to share stories. And so I
Yeah.
think people just probably feel naturally comfortable with you too, which is also such a gift from the Lord to be like, no, here, like we want you to be in this moment with us. I mean, as you're talking, I wanted to ask too, though, because the nature of what you're doing is really intense.
Yeah.
Like, not just the things that you get to see, but like the amount of time that it takes to
Right.
go shoot the content, then come back and edit the content, get the content back out to people. Like, that is a heavy workload to bear. So, have you been trying to like kind of wrestle with the Lord, even about like, how do I fit rest into this season? How do I keep my, relationship with you solid in this season? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think rest can look just dramatically different for all of us. Not everyone
Right.
needs to like fully turn off everything to be
Right.
rested.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because kind of like what I mentioned before, like building the stamina to just go and go and go and go for hours is something that I developed as like I was serving. And granted, we don't have 12-hour prayer marathons every week or anything like that. It's only once a year.
Mhm.
But you know, the weddings that I've shot, like, and I shoot a lot of like, right now I've been shooting a lot of African or Caribbean, wedding ceremonies, and those can be a full day event if you really think about it. So for example, like
Yeah.
with me being Ghanaian, typically we do a traditional, like our traditional wedding ceremony, which is the meeting of the families, um, uh, um, a mediator, well, not a mediator, like a facilitator. Yeah, that's a better word, a
Mhm.
facilitator. And there's a whole like, process, the groom coming in first, bringing in the gifts and the dowry, then the bride coming in, accepting the gifts and all. Like it's a whole process. So that can be anywhere from 3 to even sometimes 10 hours. It's a full day, like a full
Yeah.
full day. So, and I think 2025 was when I really saw a huge jump in the gigs that I had. I think I was doing double the events that I was doing in 2024. So by the
Wow.
end of 2025, I'm not gonna lie, I was burnt out. I was exhausted
Mhm.
by the end of 2025. And I think that as someone who just, one, I'm just used to one, going above and beyond for people, two, just constantly pushing through despite what might be happening around me. Maybe that's also like an eldest
Sure.
daughter, like, trait that I have.
Yeah.
So
Mhm. I feel
yeah,
that.
I'm just so used to just continuing to go. And also coming from an immigrant household or being an immigrant myself, I saw my parents not really take breaks because they had to work.
Mhm.
We didn't have a bunch of money
Yeah.
growing up and everything like that. So we had to work. Like my parents couldn't be at the PTA meetings at my school or be at every, milestone or something like that because they had to work. That
Mhm.
was what it was. So I think that was a habit that I started to build as well. So in
Mhm.
2025, when I was just going and going and going and going, a few things, happened. Like for example, because my church, we have a couple of services during the week. We have prayers twice a day, pretty much every day. So we have midday prayers, so that's from like 12 to 1. And then we have
Mhm.
midnight prayers, which is from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. So, and that happens every single day. Then we have Wednesday night Bible studies. Then we have our fire night services on Friday, which is just focused specifically on prayer. And
Mm.
then on Sundays we have. I feel like I'm missing something. Yeah, on Sundays we have our regular Sunday church service. Oh, and on Tuesdays is another sector of Bible studies that happens in another town over for our church. So we do a lot during the week.
Okay.
There are plenty of opportunities
Yeah.
be directly, in the Lord's word and in prayer, which
Mm.
is always great.
Mhm.
Now, when I started to do double the events that I was doing, when I started to do double the events in 2025 than I did in 2024, that meant that a lot of Fridays were taken up by gigs. So,
Mm.
I wasn't in church on Fridays as often as I used to be because, I mean, the truth was like people get married on Fridays. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people do weddings on weekends. Like that's kind of like the norm.
Mhm.
So I remember like doing that, and then but I was always committed to Sunday services, so I was always in church on Sundays. But this was just different from the usual rhythm that I had of being in church on Fridays and Sundays. If I wasn't gonna be
Yeah.
in church physically for like Bible studies or any of the other things that we do during the week, I would of course tune in virtually. And then on Fridays, it just got really busy, and I'm like, hey, wow, like I have had a wedding almost every Friday for the last 2 or 3 months. So like, how do I,
Mm.
properly, navigate that. So, but God is really good, because even in the midst of that, of course, I still stay tapped in virtually. But then I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, you know what, like, I, one, do need to rest, and two, just need to make sure that I don't, take so many gigs that I'm not as involved in service as I once, was. Like, I want to be still pretty much involved. So when
Yeah.
I told myself, okay, well, Sundays are non-negotiables, like, when I told myself Sundays are non-negotiables, I always made sure that I was in church on Sunday. And if I had a gig outside of the country and I couldn't control whether I could be in church on Sunday, of course I would just let everybody know and everything like that. But I realized, even in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of all of that, I was getting so tired. It's like I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I was showing up for other people, that I kind of wasn't showing up for myself. So I wasn't getting much sleep. I
Mm.
was always up all night editing. And like you said, like, I would record and then edit and then push the content out. Sometimes at the actual event, like I was doing real time editing at an event, or I would
Yeah.
get the content out to them within just a few days after the event happened. So when the end of 2025 came, I was like, man, I want to just sleep. Like, I need a break. I need to
Mm-hmm.
so tired. And it's so interesting, because I also went through this interesting transition at the end of 2025 into the beginning of 2026, where I had a lot of family things, happening. Like, my sister had a baby, so I'm an auntie now,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I'm an auntie, I
Yes.
still consider myself a mom.
Right.
you know? Because I'm a new mom, I have to take care of my baby. So, like,
Yes, 100%.
yes, so it required me to be with my sister. So, like, for like the first 2 months of the year, I was in mommy or auntie mode. Like, I'm with my sister. She just had the baby. I'm like making sure she eats. I'm feeding him. I'm doing the night shift with her. I'm staying up all night. Like, he's waking up in the middle of the night. He's hungry. Like, I'm helping with all of these different things. And
Mhm.
I really committed myself to being there for my family in that time. And I love my family. Like, I think outside of anything else that I've done in my entire life, like, my sisters, my brother-in-law, and my mom and dad are like everything to me. Like, I love my family.
Yes.
Love, love, love my family. So like, when I was going through that transitional phase, I said that, okay, well, I'm gonna put all the gig stuff to the side, and I'm gonna focus on being there for my family. So that's what I did. And in the midst of that, I realized that, man, like, I just slept through the night. Like, I needed that. Like,
Mm.
I just took a nap for 3 hours. Like, I needed that. Well, that's not really a nap. It feels like slumber almost, but still, like, I really
Right.
needed that, or, I'm going to this Broadway show, or I'm hanging out with a few friends, or I'm just like, I started to do more of that at the beginning of this year, and I hadn't done that in such a long time, because I was
Mhm.
so focused on working and building. And even though that's great, I think I realized through that process and through being with my family that, like, I need to just be there more. Like, I just need to be with my family more. I need to rest more, even if it means just like hanging out with some friends. Like, I need to, dedicate more of myself and more of my time to that. So that was something that I was, getting into a little bit more. Like, I remember on Valentine's Day, I went to go see a Broadway show. I love Broadway shows, so I went to go see a Broadway show. Next week, I'm going to go see another
Mhm.
Broadway show as well. And I
Yeah.
told myself each month I'm going to see a show, do something just fun. And because, like,
Mhm.
I'm also kind of used to doing a lot of things on my own, like, I want to get back to doing things with some friends. So, like, I'm currently planning a trip to Colombia with a few of my good friends. I'm seeing how I can visit some of my really close friends live in other states. I'm seeing how I can visit them. Like, these are all things that I want to start to
Yeah.
incorporate in my life a little bit more, so that it's not just about
Mhm.
work, 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 work. I love the work that I do. I love, um, like I said, telling people stories. I love being a part of that journey and getting to be a part of all of these intimate moments with people. But at the same time, I know that, like, I have a life outside of that, right? So
Yeah.
that means I need to dedicate more time to myself, or dedicate more time, to the Lord. Like, I feel like at the beginning of this year, the Lord really had to get me together. Like, girl, let's get it together,
Mm,
because the truth of the matter
heard
is
that. Mm-hmm.
everything that I have now is because of God. It's only because of God, not because of my physical works, not because of my logic, not because of my mind, not because of my gifts, but really because of God. God has allowed me to come this far. So because of that, I need to do a
Mm,
better job of like always, always, always keeping him at the center of everything. Because the thing too with like working and being on a run where everything is like going really well and you're like getting a lot more people are discovering you more and they want you to be a part of these things. Like if you're not careful, you can solely just focus on that. I think a few months ago I saw a
yeah.
video of another creative. He is a videographer, and he I think he was in college, and I think he dropped out, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to see if I can find that video and send it to
Mm,
you. But it was another creative who ended up like being a videographer, and he got this really big opportunity with a celebrity. And then a celebrity started to hit him up. So he was making all of this money and doing all of these things, and just like he was the guy that people were calling. And then one day he was like, I quit it all so that I can make sure that I focus on my relationship with Christ. And I said, wow, that is a serious
wow.
thing. But then again, at the same time, you know, it's so important for us to not make an idol of, what we've been blessed with. So if that means putting
Mm,
it to the side to then focus on God, that's what you have to do. I think for me, well, it didn't get that extreme for me, but I think that I had a lot of reminders at the beginning of this year that, like, okay, well, everything is going well by the grace of God. So, like, what are you going to do for the Lord? Like, what are you going to focus on now? Like, how are you going to
mm,
stay in the word consistently? How are you going to continue, praying consistently and things like that? So, how do you keep, those things going? So yeah, yeah. I think rest for
yeah.
me looks like quiet time. Whether it's quiet time with the Lord, just quiet
Mm,
time by myself, but it really does look like quiet time and
mm-hmm.
actual rest. Like, and now that I'm getting older, like my birthday is, when's my birthday? Is it next
Yeah.
week?
It's not. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah, oh my
yours
gosh,
is
yeah, it's next week. That's
only a
crazy.
few days after mine. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so my birthday is next week. And like, I'm just like, okay, well, now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing that like I have to take care of the temple that the Lord has given me to even do all of these things. If I'm constantly on go
Hmm.
and I'm constantly working, then I'm not taking care of myself. What exactly am I gonna do? What will Manny got the shot
Yeah.
be if I can't even muster up the strength to walk or hold a camera or like, like those are all things that I think that
Hmm.
the Lord is calling my attention to. So that's a lot that I've had to, there's a lot that I've had to explore with that. So yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh no, that's so good because genuinely, like, I can't speak to the immigrant side of like how that impacts your life, but I have known a handful of people who that's been like a driving
Mhm.
factor of work ethic. And it's a driving factor that I have seen the Lord honor over and over and over again.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And even within that, seen him honor basically the exact same trajectory that like you've just said you've walked on of like you like it's not sacrificing that part of yourself by
Mhm.
any means, but it's finding a new way to honor it and honor the Lord in it
Right.
by figuring out like how do I take care of my family? How do I take care of me? How do I come back to, what does like, okay, my business is doing well. I
Mhm.
have the capacity and the boundaries and like, or the margin, I guess is a better word to set it like to the side for a second
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
like assess how things are
Yeah.
going so that it can continue and can be sustained. And it's funny too that you mentioned even just like getting older because yes, I'm like I was at the gym the other day with a friend of mine. I was like, yeah, my wrist is bothering me or something. I was like, I don't know, maybe it's carpal tunnel. And she's like, well, we are getting older. And I was like,
Yeah.
I rebuke you. I'm about to turn 28. Leave me alone.
Wow, you got your
Like we're
28?
not. Yeah, on
Oh
Saturday. I'm like,
my
we're
gosh.
not old.
Girl,
Yes.
I'm already on
So
level 3, so that should tell you everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, though, I was like, okay, I'm like, yes, because this is also the year I'm like, we want to get this together.
Mhm.
But one of my favorite like Bible teachers, her name's Felicia Masonheimer. This week she's going through like a Holy Week devotional. And
Mhm.
so for Holy Monday, like the way the events run, this is when Jesus cleanses the temple. And I'd forgotten that it was the second time that he cleansed the temple. The first time was before his ministry started, or like right as it was starting. And the second time is right before he goes to the cross.
Mm-hmm.
But she talked about how what Jesus's response to the money changers and everybody in there is like, my house is supposed to be called a house of prayer.
Right.
And in one of her questions, she was like, if the body is a temple, then we're supposed to be a house of prayer. Do you feel like you're living that way? And I was like,
Mm.
ooh, I was like, I feel like that goes actually even so much deeper than just like actively praying. It's all the things that overflow in our lives through prayer, which
Yeah.
is our health and which is how
Mhm.
we rest and like how we spend time with community. And so when you said that, I was like, yeah, that's literally the Lord taking the prayers that you pray through church and the environment of prayer that you live in and like beginning to sow that back into you so that you
Mhm.
can see that, you know, just be fruitful in
Mhm.
another way, which is so cool. And like, I don't know, I feel like we've hit on all of the questions, which I love. So is there anything else like you want to add before we kind of wrap this up?
Um, I just want to say that I mean, if there's anyone out there, I guess, who's asking God to kind of really guide them and direct them to where they're supposed to be, I would say that prayer and being in the Word. I know that seems like such a cliche response, like people are always telling us to pray, but truly being in your word and really adhering to the voice of God is really, it really is the best guide. But I also think, being in a
Mm,
community where people can also kind of present a different perspective, like if they see that you have a gift or they see that there's something that you can do, they can encourage you and push you to get into that. And then also
mm-hmm,
having like leaders. I mean, whether you're at a church, whether you have a pastor, or whether you just have maybe a mentor who's also in the faith, it's great to,
mm-hmm,
listen to what they may have to say to you, especially as someone whom I know you really, really well. So I really do believe that that is important. And I think that in whatever season that we're going through, the Lord can still use us, and He can still use our
mm-hmm,
circumstance to show us what He wants us to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And
mm-hmm.
thank you, Jess, so much for like having me on here. I still feel so like
Oh, you're
privileged
so
and so honored
welcome.
that you even asked me, because I mean, who am I? So yes,
Oh
I'm
my
so
goodness, you've been
grateful.
on my list of people to ask for a hot minute. I was like, I wanted to do it when like last season, but I was like, no, I don't know. I was like, I'll just wait until this one. And then I was like, yes, I have to ask. So thank you for coming on because it's just a joy to like actually get to talk to you, in person. And Lord willing, one day it will be in person, for real, for real.
Yes,
Um, Maybe I'll find a way like to make a long layover in Newark on my way to London one
yes,
day and then we can
yeah.
catch up. Um, but for everyone, all of Manney's socials will be linked in the show notes below. So please go check them out. And if you want to follow along with the Honestly Jess Show on Instagram, you can. It's also linked below. And until the next time, y'all be good.